Hello, everybody. Welcome. I'm Lee Camp, joined by the always amazing Eleanor Goldfield. Thanks for being here. This is day 168 of Israel's special genocide operation. We will be getting into some painful to watch infiltration of the Israelis who are blocking aid in the getting into Gaza, and kind of revelations as to who those people are that are down there, literally on the border of Gaza, trying to block food from getting to children. We'll be getting into that. We'll be getting into so many other stories, including the ICC case. Did I have that right? No?
We'll get there.
Yeah, the ICC case.
It's not a case yet.
Okay, not a case yet. But anyway, brought before the ICC about the genocide, as well as so much more. So hang in there. Thanks for being here. And please click thumbs up and share and all those good things. Like I said, it's day 168. The estimates now are 32,512 Palestinians have been killed and 74,300 have been wounded. That does not count those lost under the rubble. So really it is over 40,000 people murdered. And some updates from Euromedstar says Israel has been systematically killing Palestinian tech experts, along with journalists, along with academics, along with hospital staff. They've been going after tech experts, basically to make it impossible for Gaza to rebuild. They're trying to take out all of the people who are trained in certain areas, such as the hospital, healthcare system, and press, and various other areas. But I had not heard this one before. They're actually assassinating tech experts in Gaza. Don't hear a lot about that in your mainstream media. Also, the UN has said, and this gets into our first story, that UN aid chief, which they don't normally specifically name who is doing these things. They normally just say, aid needs to get into Gaza, like these vague, without any, without it's passive verbs and things like that. But the UN aid chief has actually said, we need Israel specifically to lift all impediments to Gaza aid. So now I want to start off by showing it's about a minute 45. I don't know if we'll interrupt it, but Gray Zone got a reporter to infiltrate the Israelis blocking aid getting into Gaza. And they bring you this video from these groups of people that want to stop food and medicine from getting into Gaza. There are hundreds of trucks sitting there waiting to get into Gaza. So anyway, let's watch a minute of this.
We give prestige for the people, for the soldiers, for the cops, for everybody. This is what we give to our people. This is real humanitarian, okay? They need to block the aid to Gaza. They need to block the gas to Gaza. Everything to block. And this is what we do every week, 2, 3, 4 times a week. What's up?
What is so-called humanitarian aid to Gaza is just a joke. And the police is aware of that. And this is the reason why it is without any violence. They say, off the record, look, we are with you. So the atmosphere is nice, yeah? The people of Gaza, the population, is deeply with the Hamas. There is no difference between the Hamas and the population. The aim is here to bring the population to such a situation that they will just stand against the Hamas and say, stop, we want to eat, we want to get our life back, just release the hostages, enough is enough.
Just real quick before I play the last little bit of it, a few things about what he's saying. The population is with Hamas is, of course, laughable. Many of the people that Israel's killing are children or babies. So, oh yeah, they're with Hamas. That infant was with Hamas.
Even if they were, that wouldn't. It wouldn't matter. It's horrific. And actually,
it's garbage.
This happens a lot. It's actually a projection of themselves onto their perceived enemy, right? Like the vast majority of settlers in Israel are for what Netanyahu's government is doing. So they're actually with the terrorists. So it's like this really twisted projection of their own total lack of humanity onto their perceived enemy, which is also like a classic trope. We've seen, the indigenous people here, they were the ones who were savages, right? Like this is a kind of classic trope to project your own total lack of humanity and your own terrorism onto your perceived enemy.
Yeah, and another note about what he said is, this ongoing propaganda of, well, we're stopping the aid because if these people get hungry enough, then they'll force their hostages to be released and all of it will end. Well, Israel has actually said, there are articles in the Huffington Post, which is no lefty, propaganda outlet. It is liberal at best. In the Huffington Post saying Israel has said that they would continue this even if the hostages were released tomorrow. The hostages are not really the thing that is.
They've been killing their own hostages.
They've been killing their own hostages
since October 7th.
Yeah.
So obviously they don't give a shit.
So the release the hostages thing is garbage. It's laughable. And then another thing he says is the police are with us, right? The military's with us. And an important thing, I didn't want to, their whole documentary, if you want to go watch it from the Gray Zone, is like 17, 20 minutes long. So I wasn't going to play all that. But one of the things they say is that these people are in an area by the Gaza border that is a military zone. It's actually illegal by their laws to have average civilians and things in those areas. So the military has to let these people in, to put these people essentially on the road in between the aid and Gaza. So this is an Israel and, of course, U.S.-backed military campaign of putting these people on the road in front of the trucks between Gaza to stop the aid from getting in. This could all these people could be removed easily by the military, and they have a reason to say this is not a place where civilians can be. So it's all a garbage propaganda theater to say, well, we want the aid to get in, but these people are here. So that's all bullshit as well. I just want to show it's 20 more seconds and one other person here, young person, and just to me, what's so striking is how you really do lose your soul when you're part of a genocide, when you take part in this horror show. Anyway.
At this place in Itzana, at the boundary with Egypt, nothing, no truck crossed over for the so-called humanitarian aid to Gaza. So we are efficient and we have to keep doing what we have to do.
So no food, no nothing.
No, they don't deserve it. What I care? Kill them. I don't care.
Do you trust Palestinians?
No. I know all about them. I don't trust them. I want them out of here.
What do you think should happen to Gaza?
I want to be civilized with Jews from Israel, so we can be in peace in there.
So a lot of those are standard talking points of the Israeli state. The IDF is, genocidal talking points, kill them all. We want them out of there so we can have peace. Yeah, it is funny when you murder an entire population and you only have your people left in an apartheid state. Wow, it's so peaceful. I mean, these talking points, and it's not just, young people like her. Some of these have come from upper cabinet members in Israel, which is where the genocide case has come from against them, saying that Gaza should be paved, all Palestinians should be out. These are genocide talking points, ethnic cleansing.
Yeah, it reminds me of Abby Martin's documentary as well, where she interviews Israelis who just spout the most genocidal. And it reminds me a lot, like that little girl reminds me a lot of the Hitler Jugend, the Hitler Youth, and the things that they were taught to say. And, you have video of these kids, whatever she is, I don't know, 10 or something, heiling Hitler. And it's like the exact same shit, but a different, on the flip side of the coin. You have, to quote my boyfriend Nietzsche, you have become the monsters that you claimed you were fighting.
Does he know he's your boyfriend? Have you discussed it with him?
It's really not up to him.
Okay. Yeah. So anyway, just seeing this straight from the people that are there, it's all very shocking. I find it, even though it doesn't show any violence, I find it tough to watch, just them believing these things. Well, stopping of food is violence. Yeah.
I also found that this seems like a good time to quote Brother Ali, who said in his song, Uncle Sam, goddamn, try and separate a man from his soul, you only strengthen him and lose your own.
Yeah,
Seems like an apt moment. to bring
I
that up.
think about that quote a lot. When you do things like this, be it genocide, be it slavery, be it ethnic cleansing, you lose your own soul. You actually injure yourself. They now call it in the military moral injury. You injure yourselves as you're doing it, and you think you're winning. And another irony, speaking of losing yourself, losing your soul, injuring yourself, is Israel right now is putting the nail in the coffin of Israel. And not that it's a bad thing to stop an apartheid state. So I'm not mourning it, but I'm saying that they want it to keep going, right? And yet by doing this, they are telling the world that they are not a part of any sort of civilized world governance. And they are telling the world that this cannot sustain. And they are really, writing their own epitaph. Okay, so on a similar topic, let's get to the ICC.
So, folks who have listened to the Project Censored show, what is my hair doing? I'm sorry. It was a total vain question, but I just don't know what's happening.
Next topic, what is Eleanor's hair doing is what we will be discussing next. I think your hair looks gorgeous.
It's going like weird,
cool.
Einsteinian Jufro without my permission. Anyway, okay, that's not what I wanted to talk about.
Well, but isn't it cool to be Einsteinian Jew at the moment?
I wish I was that smart. Okay, so he was also anti-Zionist. Anyway, so for folks who have listened to the Project Censored radio show, you might recall that for a couple of times now, I've had a member of the Law for Palestine, Hassan Ben Imran, on the show to talk about the legal case for Palestine. And also to kind of talk to him about like, okay, why does this matter? And so recently, I believe this was just this past Wednesday, March 20th, Law for Palestine and a coalition of other groups submitted a communication to the Office of the Prosecutor of the International Criminal Court, the ICC. The submission addresses the crime of genocide undertaken by the members of the War Cabinet and the government of Israel and Israeli forces against the Palestinian population in Gaza in violation of the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court, as well as the 1948 Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide. I find it interesting that convention happened in 1948. Irony is dead.
Yeah.
So, and there's this whole, I mean, if you want to read it, you can. There's a lot of legalese in there. There's also a really powerful outlining of the history of Israel and indeed the history of Zionism, that Zionism in and of itself is a genocidal ideology. And so it's a really, really powerful submission. They also like give the ICC shit for not doing anything. And so we've talked about this briefly in the past, but so the ICC is not part of the UN. The ICJ is part of the UN, and the ICJ is the world court that has recently came out with the provisional interim ruling saying that there's evidence to suggest that Israel is committing a genocide, and they basically demanded that Israel not commit genocide, which then Israel was like, and I which we would expect.
I think I have this right, that ICC has to be a case against people.
Yes.
And ICJ is often against nation states.
Right. And that's why they say the War Cabinet in the government of Israel and Israeli forces, because they have to pick out certain people. So it would be like Netanyahu and Ben-Gvir. So it would be like individuals that are brought before the ICC. Now, the ICC does have the power to arrest people, right? It's like why Kissinger couldn't go to France, or like there were certain like the ICC does have the power to use.
Kissinger had to zoom into his vacation home. It was really rough.
So again, y'all can read this if you go to lawforpalestine.org, but what I want to highlight here is that so some people might be thinking like, okay, why the hell does this matter? Like what if the ICC does something? It could be 10 years from now, 20, 30, who gives a shit? And so there's a valid point to be made that like, yeah, this isn't doing enough quick enough. The counter argument to that, unfortunately, is what is, right? And I come back to this a lot with the diversity of tactics. the ICJ interim ruling, which again is just an interim ruling, has precipitated a lot of cases across the globe. For instance, Ireland has decided to stop weapons exports to Israel. Canada has made similar decisions. Spain. There are now legal fights happening in the Netherlands. Like basically, this has kicked off a large amount of legal fights that are saying the world court, and if we, as members of the UN, all these countries, if we are agreeing with the UN's decisions, and if we are agreeing that the UN is that highest court, then we have to abide by this. So legal fights are ongoing, and this could have some kind of effect on Israel's ability to continue this genocide. Also, it does shift world opinion.
Right. Their ability.
So when you have the electronic intifada saying it's a genocide, it's like, yes, it is. When you have the world court, you're shifting different perspectives, right? You're shifting different people's minds. People who would never go to the electronic intifada, people that would never see that very powerful and important reporting. So the ICC has similar power. When somebody is brought before the ICC, or when a case is launched at the ICC, it has a certain amount of weight. And this also shows the amount of support that Palestine's legal fight has. So that's another important point, that more and more people, or I should say fewer and fewer people, are able to uphold Israel's not only right to self-defense, but right to exist in and of itself. So I think that's why these sort of cases and these sort of submissions can be and are, in fact, vital.
Yeah, I think you make a lot of great points there. The ICC can have some ability to at least interrupt, like you said, some of these things. It's not, don't really have any ability to run into Israel and arrest everybody in government, but they can make it more difficult. And it's also why the U.S. wouldn't sign on to the ICC. The U.S. has never signed on to the ICC.
In fact, they said that they would invade.
Right. Yeah. I've mentioned, and you've mentioned many times, what is lovingly called the Hague Invasion Act in Congress, where our Congress and, of course, the White House, this is under Obama? I can't remember which president, but might have been Bush, passed something saying that if any American were brought before the ICC or convicted by the ICC, then the U.S. would invade The Hague to free them, invade the Netherlands.
And not just U.S. officials, but like they made it kind of vague and said any allies. So there is a potential that the U.S. would be pressured into invading if and when someone like Netanyahu or so it is that level of ridiculousness. But again, like this pushes the isolation of Israel. And as some people have also pointed out, Israel is pushing the isolation of the United States. There's some powerful analysis that what's been happening in Niger, ousting the U.S. and our massive drone base there, is connected to this ongoing isolation of the United States vis-a-vis Israel. So I think this is also, like, again, diversity of tactics. It's not that we should be putting all of our eggs in the ICC basket or the ICJ basket, but it's like the people who are legal experts, it's like, go do this thing, because this is where your expertise are needed right now. So
thank you so much, Bossalot, for the donation. You rock. Thank you for keeping this show going. And anybody else who wants to support this show, you can click the super chat button. You can also, even if you're not watching this live, and this is kind of a new thing, at least on my channel, it's new. Even if you're not watching this live, you can click the thanks button or a little heart with a $sign, and you can throw a couple of bucks and support the show that way, whether you're watching live or not, because I know a few thousand of you watch live, but tens of thousands of you watch later. So thank you so much to anybody who's helping keep this show going and supporting us. Solidarity to all of you. God, there's so many good stories. I don't know where to go next. It's a tough call. Do you have a strong feeling? Okay, then we'll go to I want to show this clip of it's Admiral General or something.
Admiral General?
Admiral General,
Like his last name
Brigadier,
is General?
Brigadier General something. Admiral Rob Bear. There we go, Admiral.
So you're just adding an extra
Hold on,
title.
but he's also a chair. So he's an,
An
admiral.
admiral
He's an
chair?
admiral chair of the NATO Military Committee. Can you have an admiral chair? That sounds like something they'd say at a furniture store, like to get extra sales, you know? But they're now pushing. So Macron has said some things that basically make it sound like the French troops are now going to go fight in Ukraine. Yet to be seen whether he's just being blustery and trying to act like he's not 5'4", or whether he
Is
actually.
he really 5'4"?
I made up that number, but still,
Oh.
he's tiny. But or whether
Yeah,
this
Brad Pitt's
actually
like
means
only 5'8". Sorry.
okay. But anyway, so he's saying that Russia has said any NATO troops in Ukraine would lead pretty quickly to nuclear war, which is, you know, that's been a red line for Russia forever. And here you have Admiral Furniture Table say the Admiral Chair Bear. See, Andy's
Isn't
an
it
animal.
Bauer?
Andy's an animal. Oh, okay, Bauer.
Yeah, but I think you're just
Threatening. I'm doing great. Okay, I am knocking this out the park. I'm the Brigadier General of this table right here. Anyway, so trying to scare everyone into, at least everyone in Europe,
I
into
mean, he looks terrified.
being afraid of nuclear war.
You need to have water. You need to have a radio on batteries, and you need to have a flashlight on batteries
Did he say
to make sure that
flashlight?
you can survive the first 36 hours. Things like that.
Look, you're not going to
simple
survive
things.
the first 36 hours without a flashlight.
Listen,
Let me tell you.
you got to say hit pause if you're going to make flashlight jokes. Okay, we can't listen to NATO threatening nuclear war and jack off jokes at the same time.
Look,
You got to pick one.
I just want to know
You
what
gotta-
he's suggesting
You
to
got to
people,
pick
okay?
one. I mean, if I were stuck in a bunker, I would want flashlight over flashlight. Okay, if it were just me, if I'm alone. Let's try again.
To make sure that you can survive the first 36 hours. Things like that. That's simple things. But it starts there. The realization that not everything is plannable, not everything is going to be hunky-dory in the next 20 years.
Hunky-dory.
I'm not saying it is going wrong tomorrow, but we have to realize it's not a given that we are in peace.
Yeah, because of you in the U.S., you asshole.
And that's why we have the plans. That's why we are preparing for a conflict with Russia and the terror groups. If it comes to it,
What
if they
terror
attack
group?
us, we're
Where?
not seeking any conflict.
We're not seeking
But
any
if they
conflict.
attack us, we
That's
have to
hilarious.
be ready.
Wait, what
Everyone
terror
get a
groups?
flashlight. You know, maybe he means the Ukrainian Nazis. No, I don't think he does. But you know, everybody get a flashlight, okay? Get a can of beans and be ready, because the nuclear war that we in NATO have put ourselves on the brink of could happen. I mean, but the real reason this guy is saying these things, the real reason is because it is so much easier to control people when they're terrified. It is so much easier to get people to shut up if they're terrified and they're scared and they want Papa to take care of them. And that's what this stuff is for. And the U.S. did it big. I mean, we'd still do it today, right? We say, and even Fox News, after October 7th, Fox News was saying Hamas was on the southern border every other week. You remember that? They kept saying Hamas
Hezbollah.
or Hezbollah, one of them, I don't know.
Look, Lee, Hamas, it's not Hamas. Let's get real. Don't be a fearmonger. It's not Hamas.
It's
that's at
Hezbollah.
the southern border. It's Hezbollah.
Okay, much more rational.
God.
Hezbollah is coming through the
Thank
southern
you.
border. Anyway, but this is seriously a psyop. Like, this is how you keep people under control. You tell them that they might die at any moment, and you need to have a goddamn baked beans with you.
This reminds me of, this is going to be like a very deep cut that probably most people have not heard of, but Lewis Black's bit about Rumsfeld and the terror. Like, remember after 9/11, it was like basically like the terror watch.
Hold on, I got to explain this to anybody who's under like 25, okay, right now.
Not even like 30.
Under 30. After 9/11, our government, literally, they weren't even smirking when they did it, unveiled a color-coded terrorism chart that you needed to be ready for, and they put it on like orange, and if it got to mauve, then you were fucked, and if it got to magenta, then you just like you should put your head between your knees. Like, it was literally, they came out with like color swatches, and they were like, how do you feel today? It was crazy.
Well, it was Black makes this whole thing, because it's so true. Like, Rumsfeld would just like come out and be like, I don't know what's going on, but by God, buy duct tape. And you're like, what the fuck? I don't know what to do.
He literally said buy duct tape.
Literally, like, but like,
There were a few people that were buying plastic sheeting and duct tape to duct tape all of their windows, so that when the chemical bombs go off, you could just suffocate in your own home alone.
but you'd have your flashlight. So this is
The key is to use the flashlight before the oxygen runs out. All right,
That's
you
true.
only have a little
That's
time
true. That's
to
true.
have that
It's
last
a race.
last
It's a
run.
race. This is totally what that reminds me of. But what's so funny is that people take this seriously. Like, they really do think
Oh my God, they take it seriously.
that Russia's going to invade, which I would just like to point out that Russia has not invaded a goddamn country since what do we want to, like, Peter the Great? Where are we on this?
You,
Like,
you mean
I mean,
outside of the Soviet bloc? You're saying outside of Ukraine. I mean, they
yes, I
they
mean,
did.
but
I
like,
get that
I
we
get-
started. I get that we started in 2014, etc. But it is an invasion.
Well, yes, but like I'm saying, like, in terms of yes, but like the Soviet bloc is a little bit different than invading a country seemingly like out of nowhere.
Yeah.
So but what was I gonna say? Oh, but like, and here's the thing. I think we can do two things at once. We can feel that Putin's an asshole, and we can feel that war is hell and there's no such thing as a good war. And we can contextualize what's happening in Ukraine through the lens of US imperialism. Like, I think we can do all of those things.
And and contextualize it. Need I remind everybody that like 2 weeks ago, even the New York Times said the CIA has been funding, arming, and training people in the forest in little CIA bases on the border of Russia in Ukraine. Like, the CIA, and they said it's been there since at least 2014. This is the New York Times. Oh, but it was unprovoked. It was out of the blue.
Right. And so, like, and when this General Ottoman, or whatever the hell his name is,
his name's Bauer, but he is the General of Ottoman.
The General of Ottoman
of
coffee table
of wardrobe.
When he says we don't want this, we're just preparing, that is legit. Like, I mean, it's basically like the US invading Iraq and being like, well, it was preemptive.
Yep.
Preemptive for what? No one was gonna attack you. Like, Iraq was not gonna attack you, you absolute piece of shit lunatic. So this is that same kind. It's like the continuous aggression against Russia, and then saying, look, we're just trying to protect ourselves. So this is it. It's both funny in like the Rumsfeld way, while also recognizing that it is very dark and morbid at the same time, just like the quote unquote war on terror.
Yeah, because the true thing that is scary about all of this is that the US and NATO have put us at the doorstep of nuclear war, including so much that even the Washington Post reported this, that Russia shot at a British jet that was basically in Russian airspace. This is a year ago or something. Thinking, I can't remember what they thought it was, but they thought it was basically coming into Russia. And they shot a missile at it, either accidentally or intentionally, but the missile missed. And the question is, if Russia had succeeded in shooting a British jet that was in its airspace out of the sky, would that have been nuclear war? Like, what would have happened next? And that's how terribly and horrifyingly close to nuclear war we are. And this is because of the U.S. empire, and I'm including, Scandinavia, Britain, Europe, all of them together in that. It's because they've put us at this doorstep. They've put us at the doorstep of nuclear war. But then the less scary part of it, but still annoying, is that they use this to control people. him saying that, and there's various, Russia's going to get you, Hezbollah's at the southern border of the United States. This shit is done.
And this is why learning
control you.
geography is so important, because because Lebanon, I don't know if you know this, Lebanon is
It's right. Hold on, it's
adjacent.
Cabo. It's in Cabo. Isn't it?
It's right off the coast of Madagascar, which is also right off the coast of Mexico. I don't know if you knew that.
It is. It's actually yeah. There's a bridge to Cabo.
Right, and Australia's down there too.
Well, and also Chinese balloons are over your head. So just be afraid and never question anything. And hopefully, Mama and Papa will take care of all of us. And so just do whatever they say.
And so again, I don't know where the hell Bauer's from. I mean, it sounds German, but I'm not. Whatever. But
racist.
But
do you want to analyze his facial features and give another guess?
No. I will say I can tell if somebody's Scandinavian. Not like in
You're saying he's not?
So he could be. He has smatterings, but I'm just saying, look, this is not what I wanted to talk about. What I wanted to talk about was
that's a legal term. Smatterings of Scandinavian can get you all kinds of extra perks if you have smatterings.
So I can't remember what year it was. It was like 2018 or some shit. The Swedish government legit sent out pamphlets. Spent fuck knows. I mean, how much money sending out pamphlets that said this is what you should do if Russia invades.
No.
Okay. Again.
Step one was hide your vodka.
Again, not going to happen, because guess what? If Russia wanted to invade, they would have done it like a long time ago, because it's like right there. Like, but there's no reason to. It's like, it's so dumb. So they sent out these pamphlets, and now everybody years ago, people were like way before the whole Ukraine thing kicked off, people were talking about what to, like in Sweden, would legitimately have conversations. Like there were family members and, friends of the family that would come up to me and be like, look, we have to get real about Russia invading. And I'm like, no, we don't. What we really need to be getting real about is how twisted and gullible Swedes are in thinking about this. I
have to remind everyone, this is from 2023. The Russian spy whale is in Sweden.
Oh, what a cutie!
I know, what a cute Russian spy whale. There he is. They say he had a tag on him that said St. Petersburg. And he's spying on Swedes. And what do you think he reports back to the Russians? It's probably like fish. I like fish.
Lots of herring.
Lots of
like in this area right here.
Herring, fish, eat fish. I bet the Russians are like, oh, now we got them.
Now we know. People blowing each other on an island in the archipelago too. That was weird. But also fish.
There's a lot of men blowing each other on those islands out there. Is that something I should have reported back or?
Yep. But again, it's so funny.
Nothing that cute could be a KGB agent.
Look, didn't the CIA try to train a cat to be a spy or something?
The CIA, more true news of the CIA. If you want to go back and look this up, the CIA wired a walkie-talkie system into a cat, inside of a cat. I don't want to ask how they got it there. And the antenna was in its tail, and they released it into Moscow to spy on the Russians, and it was immediately hit by a car.
I mean,
probably because the internal walkie-talkie system screwed up its whole avoid car system that is natural in cats.
Okay, RIP to that cat. Seriously, yet another casualty of the CIA's meddling. But this is so much stranger than fiction. But and I want the Swedes in particular, but a lot of Europe. I mean, not least of all Germany. With their very recent history of the boogeyman of Russia, the USSR. Sweden was like so ripe for this because Sweden has had a thing against Russia
Yeah.
since like 1200, you know, and there was Sweden took St. Petersburg and then they took it back. It's like there's always been this shit going on, like the cat thing, you know, like the between between Sweden and Russia since like the year 1200.
It's like they're so close to each other, Sweden and Russia. It's like taking two cats that have
Right.
never met, and we keep pushing them together, and they're like, "You're gonna be friends," and then
right.
Yeah.
And so it was so easy to reignite this kind of fear, which never really went away, right? Like I grew up during the Cold War, the beginning of my life during the Cold War, and like there was always the Russian U-boats in the archipelago. You know, it's like this just it is so fresh. So Sweden was very easy to
prime for the picking.
right.
Yeah.
And so this kind of fear mongering this is why the media literacy is so important, y'all. And this is why it's so important to recognize when somebody like this Admiral General Brigadier Chair dude is talking out of his ass. And I would just like to say the more like little pins and shit that somebody has on their uniform, probably the more shit they're
It's
stealing.
true. The more flair, the more TGI Fridays flair that a guy has on his uniform, it means the less confidence he actually has in being a human being. And he puts it all in how many people he shoots or how many people he tells other people to shoot. Okay, moving on to another story.
Yes.
Let's get to this one here about... This is about firefighters across the United States in the deep woods and how we're losing them.
So this might seem kind of random, but it's not, and I'll get into why. But so this is rad reporting by ProPublica. They do some great like deep dives into things, and this is in particular about sort of what they call elite firefighters, and these are wildfires. These are not what they'd call like structure firefighters or like city firefighters. These are people that will fight these massive, like several million acre wildfires.
And we're not talking about the prison inmates who fight the fires in California. No. This is something else, but yeah.
So for instance, smoke jumpers, they're parachuted into remote areas to fight early stage wildfires, obviously in the hopes that they can stop it from spreading. There are only about 450 of them nationwide. So first of all, let's just think about that number in relation to how many massive wildfires there are. And they've actually had to come up with a new distinction. They call it, I believe it's like a giga wildfire for something that's more than 1 million acres.
A giga wildfire.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it had never happened before. Now it's happening.
It's just called something super wild, like a Gary Busey wildfire or something.
Wow, is he still alive?
Barely.
So they use one person as an example who earned. So obviously it's very difficult and very rigorous, very demanding to be a smoke jumper, as the name probably suggests to you. He earned about $43,000 in 2021 for the year.
So when you subtract tax...
But wait, that's not even the worst part. His base paycheck was less than half of that. Like most wildland firefighters, he relied on overtime and hazard pay because you're obviously, like, you don't clock in to fight a wildfire, right? You don't, like, come in at 9 and fight it. Like, you're just... It is constant. And so he got most of those firefighters exceed 1,000 hours of overtime in a season. So obviously this job is fucking, I mean, it's bananas in terms of the demands on your body and your mind. 1,000 hours of overtime. And that's what got him to $43,000, which is a laughable amount of money for really anybody, like a low balled, but particularly for somebody who you're trying to put the weight of stopping a wildfire in the age of climate chaos. Like,
yeah, and it seems to me that this is indicative of something the United States is doing in many different fields, which is the most important type of people across our country are generally paid the least. Meanwhile, hedge fund managers and shit like that who don't do a goddamn thing except move money around and bet on things, they get paid the most. So it's like the most important pivotal people in our country get paid shit.
So he got injured because it's pretty common that this happens. Because you're parachuting into a fire, okay? Like, just, I mean,
Did we mention they're parachuting into fires?
So he like shattered his pelvis.
Dude, that you know, like how how well-known athletes get like laid a lot and stuff, and they just say like, yeah, I'm in the WNBA, and then they just like people just fall down for them. I think it should be like
Sure.
we should like those people throw a ball. Instead, it should be like I parachute into fires. It should be that really puts backs on mattresses, you know.
Sure, I don't think his main problem is the lack of vagina, but I'm not going to say
You don't know that.
I don't, but I also think with a broken pelvis,
His girlfriend's probably like, why don't you take me out to a nice dinner? If you were to just jump into more fires, you'd have money to do it.
So his but when he broke, like basically shattered his pelvis, he was not able to recover quickly enough for the next fire season, meaning that he'd only be making around $20,000 because the way that hazard pay has, like, the bureaucracy of it, a lot of these firefighters aren't eligible or can't go through all of the hoops to get it. So instead, they started a GoFundMe for him.
There you go. That's how we fund our society. GoFundMe.
So
Are you someone that's pivotal to life in the United States? GoFundMe.
Yeah.
We can get you money by that.
So, again, accelerating climate change, coupled with a century of suppression of wildfire, has created thick stands of trees primed to burn across much of the American West. Now, there's a line in there, some people might be like, huh? Suppression of wildfire. So wildfire has historically, I mean, like mostly before the colonization, has been used as a tactic to thin out forests so that they won't burn easily. Because, and this is also why stewardship and like concepts like land back are so important, because you can't just like leave an ecosystem alone and hope that it does well with wildfires. What you need to do is steward that land. And so wildfires have and are still to some extent used to thin out particularly like things that burn more easily.
The kindling at the bottom. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So basically the suppression of this has actually meant that wildfires destroy more and are worse. In certain parts of the country, fire seasons that once lasted a few months now span much of the year.
So, yeah, can I just mention on so climate chaos is doing things like you just said. It's extending fire season. It's making more wildfires. The people who want to believe climate crisis isn't happening or doesn't exist, and they, want to go, Earth is flat. Those people, like Donald Trump, want to say, oh no, they just didn't steward it well enough. So like when he went to, what was it called? Paradise, California, that burned entirely and dozens of people lost their lives. And Trump parachuted in to say, I'm here for you. Not really. I got to go. He said he didn't say anything about climate crisis. He just said they didn't, steward the trees enough. But the thing is, it's both, right? It can be both. That climate crisis is making these seasons longer and worse. And we also don't have enough people that are doing any stewarding.
Right. So with regards to these firefighters, and it's a gigafire. A gigafire is any fire exceeding 1 million acres, which, like, I don't even know, like, 1 million acres. Can you even perceive of that amount of land on fire at the same time?
No, I don't even know what that looks like. I know Australia has a lot of those, the like massive 1 million acre fires that just seem insane. And then they take a helicopter and they drop some carrots down to the remaining wombats. And I'm like, I don't think this is sustainable. I don't like.
We're not going to have enough carrots.
We're not going to have enough carrots. We just need a helicopter for every wombat. If we have one helicopter over every wombat, we should be fine.
So,
by the way, Ken, thank you. Khaled, thank you so much for the donation. You rock. I'll try and answer the question a little later because I don't want to interrupt the flow here. But
you can interrupt if you need.
No, we get off on a whole other topic.
Okay. So basically, the reason that there aren't a lot of people in this job is there's a myriad reason, but a lot of it has to do with the fact that they're compensated so poorly. The federal fire service is responsible for managing blazes on nearly 730 million acres of land, an area almost the size of India. And there are 450 smoke jumpers to cover an area the size of India. Okay, so nope.
I think we got it then. I think all is fine. I think we're good.
So they about 1/3 of the workforce is temporary, and all of the lack of benefits that go along with that. A lot of firefighters are automatically laid off at the end of each fire season. Even those who are permanent receive compensation starting at $15.
Thank you, Sway Danias, for the donation. $15 an hour. You're saying that's not enough to jump into fires?
Most babysitters get like 25.
What if we dropped the babysitters into the fires?
Gosh, I didn't realize you had such extreme experience. I'm so sorry. We'll talk about this later. So because of the way that government classifies their work, it's extremely difficult for wildland firefighters to increase their base salaries unless they frequently move around the country. So you have to be a nomad. You have to have a nomadic existence. You have to be ready to. They also talk about in this article how the Forest Service has done like an absolute worthless job making it clear that fighting wildfires leads to cancer. Like, duh. But you're basically all you're doing is inhaling carcinogenic air constantly. Not to mention, they also point out that some of the Forest Service own gear could have like forever chemicals that then you're breathing. I mean, it's just like it is compounding dumb shittery and literally hanging these people out.
It's shit like this that make me like think maybe our impending extinction justified.
So basically, like they don't have access to proper healthcare. They don't have access to mental health care, which they also point out is a big problem. And they don't have accurate compensation. And I wanted to cover this story because it is an extreme example. But does that sound like anybody else? Picket, rail workers, teachers, the frontline workers, people who are nurses, doctors, like people who have work that we rely on for the perpetuation of not only our lives, but our like any kind of society, any kind of understanding of a cultural society, are treated remarkably shitty. And yet we're surprised. I mean, they talk about this, like the Forest Service was like, we haven't gotten any good applicants. It's like, well, maybe because you pay people $15 an hour to throw them out of an airplane to fight a fire. Like, I wouldn't do that.
It used to be the only people that did that were David Blaine. That was it.
I don't know who that is, but cool.
Thank you so much, Byron Rom, for the donation over on Rumble. Byron says, thank you. You go through all the really painful news and save us the pain and keep us informed. And Sway Danias, thank you so much. Thanks for being courageous, being the truth. We need independent press. Greetings from Ecuador. Hello to Ecuador. We both breathe in at the same time. I gotta head over to just Rumble in a second. Should I wait a moment? No. Are we wrapping up that story?
We're wrapping.
Okay.
I'm wrapping.
Yeah, I'm not saying you have to. I'm just
but I am. So the mental health aspect is one that I wanted to touch on briefly. They went to, this guy goes to get mental health, which is oftentimes a really big step, particularly for this kind of rugged individualist in the American West kind of trope. Which several of these people admit, like that's kind of what brought them to the job. So it's hard for them to even ask. And then when they ask, they're told, right, we're not covering that. We're not covering the PTSD that you have.
Oh, sounds like our soldiers.
78% of the people surveyed of these wildfire fighters say that they binge drink. So that's super healthy.
Do they do it while they're in the fire? I would do it while I'm in there. I was like, dude, if I were surrounded by a fire, I'd take out the whiskey.
Problem is the whiskey is considered an accelerant. So that's like, I would say that's a bit of a no-no.
That's true. My blood is probably flammable, so I shouldn't.
They suffer PTSD rates about 4 times that found in the general population. So, basically, again, all this to say that these you can whatever the jobs y'all have that are in the chats right now that are watching this, I guarantee there's a mirror somewhere here where you're like, I can relate to that.
Yeah.
I can relate to this as a fill in the blank. There are specific issues, obviously, that smoke jumpers face that we who are not smoke jumpers will never face. But there is this shared oppression under the fall of empire that it's something as necessary as wildfire fighters can't even get the appropriate compensation, appropriate health care at a time in which the fire season is basically like all year now. And so if they can't expect it, then what hope is there for the rest of us? Which again highlights why it's so important that we connect our issues, that the solidarity of the workers is one and the same, that we recognize our struggles mirrored in theirs, and use that as an in to organize. I'm done. Thank you, coming.
And to me, those deeper issues of like a story like this is hopefully why you come to this show. I think there's a lot of people that might cover a story like this, but then they leave it at that surface level. And the truth is, this should be a cause for us to unite as workers. It should be a cause for us to unite as environmentalists who want to see a sustainable future for our kids and grandkids. All those things
that aren't
our grand pets, you know, everybody and thing we'd want to. A grand pet? It's your pet's
a pet.
Your pet's kid's
I thought you
pet.
said pat.
Your pet's kid's kid.
Okay.
Got it?
What if your cat?
So when one cat really loves another cat, okay, they have some naughty time, and then
sex naughty. You Puritan.
I am going back far enough on one side. Okay, so we're headed over to rumble.com/LeeCamp. It's free to watch over there as well as my Locals page. I will continue there as well. Hopefully you want to become a member at Locals. It's 38 cents an episode, $6 a month, and it's easy to do. And you just go to leecamp.net and it forwards you there. What's the hand for?
Did you want to respond to the question someone asked?
Oh, yeah, that's right. Sorry, Khaled. Well, actually, I'll do that on Rumble. Khaled's asking about Hamas leadership. I'll do that on Rumble, rumble.com/LeeCamp. Join us over there, and we have more stories as well. Also, special segment for Locals today on the dark, dark truth about AIPAC and the power they have. That's just for members at Locals. I'll be doing that in a few minutes. But all right, join us at rumble.com/LeeCamp. That's rumble.com/LeeCamp.
I feel like we do need to talk about Alabama.
We'll get to that.
Okay.